Hello and welcome to the Cardfellas podcast. I'm Chris, and with me, as always, is Matt. And we are going to be talking something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Every time we talk about these junk wax sets, I get excited. It's just kind of something that reminds me of home. And folks, we are probably going to say the F word on this episode today. So we try to make this a family-friendly show, but this set has a card that has that on it. So if you're not prepared to hear that, go ahead and flip over to the next episode. But that is going to be said today, so just want to give everyone fair warning on that. So without further ado, Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Parental advisory for the old podcast today. Episode 7, where things get dark and ominous. And lucky number 7. We get a little bit more grown up here. Yeah, the set we're going to be talking about today, definitely one of those that is always an eye-opener. I always see people interested in that set online, especially when it's on Marketplace. So we'll get into that. And but first, I want to start off by saying, what the hell is going on in the NFL? You and I follow the league, probably the sport we probably follow the most. And it seems like every day, and we've talked about this too before on this podcast, the NFL knows how to manufacture news better than anyone. And we're talking about all the player movement that's happening, and what it's doing to the cards and the hobby is fascinating to me as well. And I'm going to bring up one guy who got moved this week, and his cards are now at all-time highs. Matt Ryan. So his PSA 10 rookie cards, like Topps Chrome, take it for instance, all of a sudden goes through the roof. Any type of change or speculation, somebody is going to try and profit off that. And so he's one of those guys. We talked about Russell Wilson, his cards, all of a sudden. Another guy we've talked about on this podcast before, Deshaun Watson. He lands with the Cleveland Browns now. He was facing potential jail time. Now he gets to go to Cleveland, which, good for him, I guess, for continuing his NFL career. But he goes to a place that is so bad for quarterbacks. If he can do anything there, that resembles some sort of run. I know Baker Mayfield had a year, but think about that Tim Couch jersey with all the names of replacement quarterbacks. And now Deshaun Watson goes there and people are buying up his cards. I was listening to another podcast, actually the PSA podcast, and they were talking about the price of his cards, his, PSA rookie prism. They went from like $400, $400 at its lowest. They're at like $800, $900 now. So speculation season is in full force. And today we got even more news. Tyreek Hill is going to the Dolphins. So what do you make all this offseason changing and rearranging? Devontae Adams, we didn't even mention him. Oh, by the way. But what do you think this does for the hobby? What are you seeing? What are you feeling when it comes to all these guys moving teams? And I'm going to ask you one more question. I want your thoughts, but then I'm going to bring it back to one more question for you. But go ahead.
I don't remember a NFL silly season quite like this one, especially with the top-end quarterbacks changing places. I remember last year, though, when Carson Wentz went from Philly to Indy, his cards went through the roof. I think Indy is kind of a special place. They don't have a baseball team. There's no NHL there. They literally have a basketball team and an NFL team, and that's it as far as the Big Four goes. So I think when you go to that town, I've been there many, many times. The Colts really drive the bus when it comes to sports there. But even if you look at Pacers cards, Indiana Pacers cards sell really well. They
do.
People have two teams there, and that's it. So I think when something happens with the Colts that's exciting and people are excited about perhaps at least getting back into the playoffs, I think people jump on it. They're not sitting here thinking about opening day. They're not thinking about what the big baseball prospect is.
Right.
Matt Ryan is the thing in Indianapolis right now. So
could he be the new Matthew Stafford? Do you think the Indianapolis Colts have that in them? I know some people are speculating that they have those pieces and Matt Ryan could get them over the hump. You think he could be that guy?
It's definitely a much better team than what Matt Ryan is coming from. I think the Colts with Matt Ryan could certainly be a 10-7, 11-6 type of team next year. They've got kind of a powerhouse squad in the same division. They're going to have to take on Tennessee. Right. So, I mean, that's going to be a big one. But definitely, I think Indy went from a team that was kind of maybe a team that probably would just miss the playoffs, or maybe even worse, of course, with no quarterback. Now I think they're a pretty tough quarterback contender, but the AFC is really getting tougher and tougher.
Yes, it is.
There's 3 teams. I mean, there's 4 teams in the AFC West, I think, that think they're going to go to the playoffs.
Right. So, exactly. So let me pose this question. Let me pose this question to you. With all the movement, people joining, new players joining new teams, with all of that happening, who are you investing in? New face in a new place. Is there somebody you're looking that you would look at as a good investment at this point?
Today, in March, I would sell Matt Ryan.
Okay.
That's what I would do. I would sell Matt Ryan.
Okay.
As far as buying goes, I mean, I don't know. I guess if I was going to go and
I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm sorry.
Yeah. If I was going to go and buy stuff, it probably would be Trey Lance. I think that's who I would buy, because I think Garoppolo is going to get shipped.
Yeah.
I don't know where he's going to get shipped to, but I think he is good as gone. I think San Francisco has made that up in their mind. I think they're going to send him somewhere. So that would be probably who I would buy, especially if you can get them at the right prices. But right now, I'm buying baseball.
Yeah. So with football, Trey Lance is not a new face in a new place, but he's a new face in a new spot on that team. So you're buying there. Russell Wilson, you think his cards have potential? Deshaun Watson, any of those guys do anything for you?
Yeah, I don't think Deshaun's going to play. He's definitely not going to. He's going to miss some games. And the more I've heard, and I haven't really read it big time, but so the way they structured that contract, Deshaun's not getting paid much this year, which tells you that, the Browns really did him a favor by doing that, because they know he's going to miss games. So they push the money out years 2, 3, 4. So they know he's not going to play.
Yes, that's a great point. So sell Deshaun Watson now, hold Deshaun. Like, what do you do with his cards right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm a holder, just because there's no doubt that he's probably going to play. I don't think
eventually
they make that move unless they feel like he's going to play. And there's no doubt, I think, that he's definitely probably a top 5, 6, or 7 guy right now in the NFL.
Right. Sure.
So, and also Cleveland's another one of those places that they're just starved for success.
Yes.
And if this guy comes out there and does something, people are going to eat it up. So,
Joe Burrow type of hype, type of city.
Yeah, he's not replacing Tom Brady. I mean, he's going somewhere that if he's even somewhat successful, people are going to be all over him.
Speaking of which, is there any card market, any interest for you in Baker Mayfield at all? Buying low, because his cards right now are bargain basement.
Yeah.
Are you buying low on him right now?
It's not a bad play. I still think that probably the place he's going to end up is Seattle.
Right.
It makes the most sense. And I don't know. I think that they're in a spot where they're in a tough division as well. But I think they like Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll is he doesn't have 10 years for a rebuild.
No.
So I think they're packed with draft picks, and I think they're probably not an all-in type of team, but I think they may make a few moves.
And Mayfield's still a young guy. I keep thinking back to guys that maybe missed on their first team and came back. Ryan Tannehill, right? Ryan Tannehill is one of those guys that often gets mentioned as that maybe didn't hit it the first time, but caught on with the Titans and became an all-pro and got his team, deep into the playoffs. I'm not saying Mayfield could do that, but it's always intriguing for buy low. Now, I was also a buy low guy last year for Sam Darnold once he got out of the Jets. I thought he would be a different player. He turned out not to be. Teddy Bridgewater, I was also a buy low guy on him. I'm still a buy low guy on my buddy Gardner Minshew. I still think there's potential for him. So, yeah, I mean, when we're talking PSA 10, some of his old rated rookie cards, if you can get those for 20, 25, $30, I don't even know what they're going for. Like this is, but they have to be near the bottom, bottom bargain basement at this point. And if you can flip them for, 2x at one point, maybe it's worth it. But there's also that really strong potential that this guy might be done in the NFL. And now you're stuck with Andrew Luck cards. So that's the other, but you're not in for much. That's, I guess, what I'm saying.
Right. He may be a guy that ends up going somewhere for a year just to kind of let the market figure out where it wants to go. Obviously, I don't think Tom Brady's going to be around for 4 or 5 more years. Maybe, he goes and backs up somewhere, gets a 1-year deal, and tries to slide down to Tampa next year. It'd be a fun place for Baker Mayfield to hang out. I think they're going to quarterback. I think New Orleans is going to be in a spot next year where I know they signed Jameis for a couple years, but I think that I don't think he's the answer there.
And you mentioned we'll end with this one. The AFC West, right, is now like Super Division 1. And what about Derek Carr? His cards have never really bubbled to the top, but now you start to look at this guy was really close to advancing far in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And now he gets one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver, in Devontae Adams. He's got a stable of guys. Could he be the guy to make the jump next year? And when I say jump, I mean, I'm talking Super Bowl.
Right. I've always been a Derek Carr guy, even going to fantasy football. I've always thought that he's a guy that you can get mid-round quarterback, and he's going to be real close to where those top guys are. And statistically, he has been. And I think the nice thing for him as well this year is Mariota's gone. And, Mariota's slid in there a lot of times. He gets close to the red zone. They bring Mariota in. That's been happening. Now he's gone. So it's going to be Derek Carr's ship. And I know over the last few years, been talk about the Raiders trading him and getting rid of him. And obviously that's not happening. They went all in with him. They're going to go. They brought in Adams. And I think they feel like he's the guy. And I think he certainly has the tools to be the guy. They've got a great team around him. They've got a new stadium. They've got a lot of things to be excited about. I don't like the Raiders. I'm a Broncos fan. But,
I mean, I know we were going to wrap this. I know we were going to wrap this up but the domino just fell again. Marcus Mariota. Are you buying his cards? He's in Atlanta now. He's a starting quarterback. No. Everybody was intrigued by him. Not buying him. Tua Tagovailoa. He gets Tyreek Hill now. Now he has him and Jalen Watt. Like, there are so many intriguing opportunities out there for card collectors. It's kind of hard to kind of grasp, okay, where do I go? What do I do? And, at this point, there's so much speculation. And, we could see this going, this guy now has another big weapon to throw to. I'm going to go buy his cards. I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting for the sport. I think it's exciting for the hobby. I think a lot of people sometimes get a little bit too overhyped and start chasing guys. You and I have talked about it before. Now, here's the last thing I'm going to say about guys changing teams. Now, if you're a fan of this team, so you said you're a fan of the Broncos. Now, let's say one of your quarterbacks, let's say hypothetical, Drew Lock was a thing for the Broncos, and he was, now he's gone. Does that change how you collect his PC cards or your PC cards of his, guys flipping teams? Does that matter at all? Or is it, this guy was part of my franchise that I liked, or I've always liked him, even if he's wearing a new uniform?
Yeah, I think Drew Lock's probably a bad example, but Matt Ryan is probably a good example.
Let's go with him. Or Russell Wilson.
Or Russell Wilson. Yeah, right. Russell Wilson's actually a great example.
Yes.
And I think that, I think it makes it hard for someone from Seattle to collect them at this point. I mean, I'm really good friends with a Patriots fan who still loves Tom Brady and, as basically
he got him all those damn rings. Yeah, I'd love him too.
Right. So he's kind of adopted the Buccaneers as a second team, even though he's from Boston and is going to love the Patriots no matter what.
Yeah.
I don't know if Russell, like you say, is quite where Tom Brady was, but you take Peyton Manning. There's a lot of Colts fans when he went to Denver.
For sure,
just became Denver fans.
Right.
So
it brought up an interesting point. It's just like, hey, I've collected Russell Wilson cards my whole life because I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan. I love now he's wearing the orange crush of the Broncos. Like, do I still have that same passion for collecting his cards now?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't been that connected to a modern era player enough, but just wanted to get your thoughts on that. All right, I think we've talked enough. Let's get into this set you and I were talking about. Good old days of 1989 baseball. We're talking about the Fleer set. And boy, oh boy, does this one have a lot of layers to it. 660 cards. There's the wax box with Gary Carter on the front. And I tell you what, I mentioned it before. This card or this set is always in demand. I always see people buying this when it's up on Marketplace, on Facebook, or on eBay. People are always into this set, into these packs, into these boxes. You have the gray border. Even the box has the gray border with the pinstripes vertically. The one thing about this set that I think is cool and unique, and I learned this in doing my research, is the collation of the set. They went from order of finish by the teams in 1988. So the Oakland A's had the best regular season record. So their cards like 1 through 20 something. And then it went on to the New York Mets and then the LA Dodgers and so on and so on and so on. So the further you get down the set, the suckier the team. And so that was interesting. And then for the team sets, everything was in alphabetical order. So the Oakland A's had Don Baylor. And based on their last name, Don Baylor was the first card in the set, and they worked their way, numerically based on the alphabet. So that's one really cool thing about this set. But overall, I would say this set is putrid. But caveat time, there are too many oddballs in this set and in this wax box to not be considered an icon.
Right.
And I think the number one, you and I have to agree, card number 616 is the card we got to talk about right off the bat.
All right. So that's this one, I'm assuming.
That's it right there.
The Bill Ripken, and I'll say it first to break the ice, it is the fuck face card. And there is many legends that went on it, and I haven't really dug into this set for a long time, probably since 1989. And then the legend was that Bill Ripken didn't know that was on the bat, and that it was, maybe a prank that a teammate pulled on him.
Right.
But through my research, he actually admitted to writing it on there, and someone else actually went through and took pictures of some of his autographs where he wrote messages. And if you look, there was a few that they had on their website said like, "Good luck, Joe," from Bill Ripken. And the UCK is the exact same UCK that's on this box, on this thing. So it is very clear that it was Bill Ripken who wrote that on the bat.
The forensic files found out that Billy Ripken was the guy. But yeah, when you're collecting cards in the 80s, like, you were ecstatic to get a Ripken card, a Cal Ripken card, right? Like, that's what you wanted. But in 89, you wanted a Bill Ripken card for that exact reason. So, like, this enormous shadow of your, like, iconic brother Cal, and now here comes Bill with, like, I finally beat you, brother Cal, and it's because I wrote the word fuck on my bat. And that's what it took. But it was, again, this set had so many like quirks and oddballs. When you have a card that has a swear word on it, you have a card that has a cigarette ad in it, and then it has, oh, by the way, Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. Those are three really interesting cards. And again, that's why we picked this set. But back to this Bill Ripken F-Face card. So when this started, when it started to come out that this card was out there, there was no internet at the time. So it was like, it was kind of a card shop legend, if you will, or like a folklore, it's like, yeah, there's a card that has, and so again, it was one of those things that drew people to this set and drew people to buy this wax. And we have to remember, this was also at the time when Upper Deck 1989 was hugely popular as well. So, we talk about the speculation of how this ended up on Bill Ripken's bat. Now there's speculation of how many how many did Fleer let out on purpose because they realized they were getting some favorable payment buzz, meaning people were buying their product? And so there's speculation again. How early did they know, right, that this was going to be on the card? What did they do about it? And then, ultimately, at the end of the day, they sold a lot of boxes because of this.
For sure. And that was something that I wanted to talk about, is that there's definitely some context to go around this. And I would say 1989 wasn't the dawn of the junk wax era, but it was probably like 9 o'clock in the morning. We'd already had our coffee and our cereal and stuff. But, the writing was on the wall of what was happening, even though as collectors, I think most of us didn't realize what was happening, but the companies certainly did. And at that time, you had Topps, you had Donruss, you had Fleer, and all of a sudden this upper deck thing's coming in, and these companies like, what's going on here? At that time there was no numbered cards, there was no relics, none of that stuff was around. So error cards were a big deal. And like in today's world, there's lots of error cards out there. Most of them don't get corrected. I shared with you a few weeks ago one of the most hilarious things that I've seen on a card, a Panini football set, where it says Thunder and Lighting. And they just clear the whole set like that, and no one stopped it. And those Thunder and Lighting cards are out there for everybody to see. And it's like, I wonder how many people got fired over that. But with this deal, with this error card, like you said, it became such a big deal in pop culture. And it's really one of kind of the first families of baseball with the Ripkens. Cal Sr. was the manager. Cal Jr. was the iconic shortstop. And Billy was kind of like the Billy Carter of the family. He was kind of like the black sheep of the family. He stuck around in the majors he actually had a pretty decent career, but was never a star. But I think this was kind of a way. And I did a ton of reading on this thing, and Billy was kind of known as like the jerky little brother. He wasn't real well liked, and from what I heard is that he had a few bats picked out that he wanted, and I think he kind of maybe trolled himself a little bit and wrote, if I write this on my bat, no one else is going to pick it up. I also heard that. So this photo was taken at batting practice.
Yes.
You see the crowd in the background's empty. Apparently everyone else from the Orioles when this photo was taken was wearing like their warm-up jacket. And he was the only one that was wearing his jersey. So they're like, hey, let's take a picture real quick. And I guess he had thrown this bat down and then stopped and picked it up again for the photo. Clearly, the thing on the knob of the bat is very clear, and it's also very it's not turned to the side or anything.
It's set up perfectly, right?
It's set up perfectly, yes.
Yes. And that's what tells me, come on. You're going to pick up a bat, perfectly place it onto your shoulder so everybody with two eyes and good sight can tell what the hell it says. So, yeah, it was a clear play, in my opinion, by Ripken to, I don't know if it was to have a little fun, to do, what it was, if he's a jokester, prankster, whatever the case may be. I mean, it very much looks intelligent or planned, staged. And I think the one thing that's unique about this card is once Fleer figured it out, there was a scramble to get it fixed. And now you started to see all these variations. And that was what then kind of took the hobby to the next level, as people started to open up packs and find newer versions. So they find this Bill Ripken card, and then all of a sudden there's one that's a white scribble, and this is called a whiteout. So in this whiteout version, there's different sizes to the whiteout and different shapes, and then here's the white scribble. And now those two cards are actually the most rare. So when you look at the PSA pop reports, so the F-Face card has 8,400 graded cards. Over 2,000 of them are 10s. So not very rare. And those are selling for about $500. But when you look at the whiteout card, the one with that white blob, 125 of those have been graded. That's it. There's 16 10s. And now that scribble card right there is actually the most rare. There's 98 graded cards of the white scribble, and there's only 14 10s. And those are selling, haven't found those online, so I don't know, but probably a couple $1,000s when you look at that low pop. But the idea of having, these variations really helped fuel kind of the cards allure as the years went on. It wasn't just kind of like what you were talking about. There's a mistake, there's an error, we fixed it. No, there was a different. And then they went on again and put on a black scribble, which is one of the, again, lower graded cards, fewer than 1,000 graded. 215 are 10s. So that's a very rare card. And then what they ended up settling on, of course, was the black box. And the black box is basically what you get in every factory set now. In most packs, this is what you're going to get unless there's a special code. And I haven't gone into all the codes, but the boxes were all coded. And it was based on the release date. Thank you for bailing me out. But this card right here, 2,400 times it's been graded, or close to 900 10s. So again, those are not as rare as the ones that were, popping up in that kind of that in between F-Face and black box. So I'd love to tell the folks what the codes are and how many there were, how often those were released. Like any information you can give me on the codes.
I can give you the codes.
Give it to me.
All right, so here we go. If you're looking to get one from Wax or anything else, Fleer put a case number, and I'm going to bring that up for you too. They put a case number on all the cases, and it looks to me like January 17th. Of course, I don't have that photo on here. That's awesome. Well, I'll tell it to you then. They have a 5-digit code on all the cases. And Fleer, it looks like it was January 17th, 1989 when they discovered this. Okay. So on the cases, the first number is the number that those cards were printed. So there's actually many cards that were printed from the 1989 set actually in 1998. So it'll start with either an 8 or a 9. And the next 3 numbers are the date of the year that those were printed. So apparently January 17th is the last day that everything before that had the F-Face in it. So if you have one that's 9016, 9017, 9005, that would be an F-Face case. Anything after that, let's say you get a 9019, could potentially still have it in there. But I think once you get into February dates, so if you're looking at like 9032, at that point, you're probably out of luck as far as getting an F-Face. Now, you and I opened a bunch of this stuff a few years ago, and our best luck was cello boxes.
Yes.
We seem to be able to pull those cards out of cello boxes quite often. So that was kind of our thing. But yeah, that's the code. There's the 5th digit is actually either the shift or the factory. So the 5th digit means nothing. So you need to look at the first 4 digits. If it's an 89 case that maybe was printed in December, it may say 8350350. That's probably going to have an F-Face in it. Anything 9017 and earlier apparently has it in it. So that was, according to my research, don't spend thousands upon thousands of dollars based on that information. Do your own research. I did look up tonight. There were some cases online that had the right markings on it, and those were selling for about $3,000 a case.
Okay, so people are still and those are selling, right? Those are there's, like I said, these people are still chasing this card. I think the idea of pulling this card is still so intriguing to people.
Right.
I love it. I loved pulling it. I think I pulled one, and I think I probably called you. I usually text you. I was like, dude, I got a Ripken F-Face card out of a pack. It brought me back to my youth. Like, I think that's what it is. And it's, it's not a rare card, like I showed. But it is just, it's such a unique, it changed so much about how we looked at cards and how error cards, like you said, they were so different back then. And I remember pulling this card in a Florida sports card shop when I was on spring break, and the guy who owned the shop offered me $200. This was like back when I was 12. Offered me like $200 right on the spot, and I was like, no. We didn't know how rare it was. Again,
Right.
There's no internet. Nobody knows how rare it is. You just heard about it, whether you're reading Beckett magazine or whatever. So I just remember that card being, one of the cards that everybody was talking about, everybody wanted, and now, if you get it at for PSA 10, or if you get a PSA 10, they're selling for around $400 or $500. So there's still a lot of value to it. And I think, when you look at some of the variations, and there is one more variation that, I showed this to you a while back. It's called the saw cut or the slit. And this was a card. Now, from the research that I did, the cards that have the slit in them were designated for destruction. So Fleer was looking to get rid of these cards. They wanted them out of any type of population. So they started, slicing some of the big pages of cards. But some of these cards, as you can see, came into the population. And there's some that, are sitting in racks packs or cello packs. So, it's legit. But buyer beware. Because I know there's a lot of fraud and forged saw cut cards out there where people are trying to cut them themselves and selling them raw on eBay. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think PSA grades the saw cuts because I really searched and I couldn't find any. So I'm interested to find out what's going to happen to my saw cut card that I sent to PSA, because they have it in grading right now. So they haven't said not going to grade it. But it's sitting at PSA right now in grading. So
interesting.
T's coming up. We're going to see how I might get a PSA 1 because there's a cut in it. They might be like, it's a cut card. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen. So stay tuned. Hopefully in a couple months, I'll have a reveal here with my saw cut F-Face card that I bought on eBay. And I am questioning whether or not it's authentic or not. I didn't pay a lot for it, but I'd have to go back and look what I paid, but I would assume it's probably like $30-$40. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but at the same time, I wasn't breaking the bank on it, but I sent it to PSA seeing what they would do. So, but it's just interesting how Fleer went into kind of crisis mode. How are we going to get rid of this card? And it wasn't the only card in this set that was creating buzz over a controversy. I don't know if you're done with the Ripken or if you have anything else to add, but
I have one more thing to add before we go to the next one.
Okay.
And that is, the whiteout cards, there were some that they literally had people at the factory taking the F-Face card and literally putting whiteout on it. So it wasn't whited out and then printed. Like, they literally put them right on the card. So you mentioned that.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and we kind of showed like 5 or 6 versions, but from what I've heard, there's really like, dozens of different versions because they tried all these different ways to correct it. And the ones that we talked about are kind of the main ones. But I guess there are people also that are literally taking whiteout and whiting out their cards and selling that as a whiteout version. So another buyer beware for you. I also wanted to, before we get into the next card, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the set itself. 36 packs in a box, 15 cards per pack. So you're looking at 540 cards. So you don't get a whole set in a box. So you may buy a wax box, and not even get a Ripken card. The odds, you basically, you got about a 80%, 90% chance of getting it. So you may not even get one. Boxes are selling unwrapped for around $50. If you're really good at eBay, you may find one cheaper. I actually was bidding on one over the weekend that wasn't titled well, that sold for like $28 plus shipping. Ended up selling, I think, for about $42. If you want to go cello packs, and these cello boxes are actually they're about $60 to $70, but you're getting 864 cards, 24 packs, 36 cards in a pack. They're selling for $60-$65 if you're looking close. So that may be a better option for you. And like I said, we seem to have better luck pulling the better cards out of the cello boxes than we did out of the wax. One of the cool things about this, though, so you get one sticker card per box and per pack and 3 sticker cards in a pack of cello. Do you know why Fleer has sticker cards in the packs, Matt?
I will have to say I don't have any idea.
All right. You're going to love this story. So in 1981, in 1980, Topps was the only one making baseball cards. And then in 81, we got Fleer and Donruss. Well, at that time, Topps had the license for Major League Baseball. Different licensing than what we have now. But basically, they had a lawyer draw up, and they basically sent a letter to Donruss and Fleer saying, cease and desist, you cannot make baseball cards. But it was written that Topps had basically exclusive rights to package baseball cards with a stick of gum. And Fleer and Donruss went, okay, you guys do have exclusive rights to package baseball cards with a stick of gum. Donruss said, we're going to package baseball cards with a piece of puzzle.
Yep.
And Fleer said, we'll do it with a sticker. So
no kidding.
Was basically wrangling of the law is what they did. And that's why that they had to put something in there, but they couldn't put gum. So that was the solution. That was the workaround. That was the magic of lawyers in 1981.
What a great story. And that's the that's the workaround, and that's something that I would have never known, but makes a lot of sense too with those awful puzzle pieces from Donruss. But those stickers, those ended up a lot of places. So
right,
that's and they didn't ruin the cards like the gum did. So
here's
kudos to Fleer.
Why didn't they put the puzzle piece or the sticker on the back to absorb the gum stain or the wax stain?
The wax stain.
We still got the wax stain.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's not on the back. It isn't. Yeah. It isn't on the back. Yeah, that's what I was thinking it was, but it wasn't.
We got a viewer, KS, actually just said, and that's why Upper Deck put the hologram in the pack. Same thing.
Unbelievable. Look at this, man. We're putting it all together. Isn't that awesome? That's great. We got it all figured out. Now you know why they put these little inserts in there. What? Yep. Yeah. Great call out, KS. Well done, man. That's awesome. All right. More controversy. Now that we've sworn, let's have a smoke.
Let's have a smoke. Yeah.
Let's have a smoke. Good old Randy Johnson, the big unit. Yeah. You can't really see too much, but over his left shoulder, his powerful left arm, the flames of a Marlboro cigarette ad. Yeah. And it looks like it was framed up that way. Like the guy who took the picture, again, what are you doing, Fleer photographer? He's like, hey, let's put a cigarette. But you know what? The fact that there were cigarette ads at a baseball game back then, nobody really thought about this. I don't even know when this became a controversy. This is one of those things in the moment, in the year, nobody was really talking about this. But clearly somebody brought it to Fleer's attention enough where they felt like they needed to make a change. But I don't remember this being a controversy that year where it was so outrageous that Fleer had to scramble to get this changed. Do you remember that?
I don't, but I think what happened, you can tell us what the PSA numbers are, but I feel like this card is way more rare than the Ripken ones. And I've never had one of these, never even seen one out in the wild. I've obviously seen it online, but as far as seeing one at a show or anything, I've never seen it anywhere. I've never held one.
Yeah.
I think this is way more rare. I think it was spotted probably, before a lot of cards got out, because this one here, I just haven't seen it anywhere.
Nope, and you're absolutely right. Only 703 of these cards have been graded. And of those, only 98 10s. So frisky low pop, selling for around $1,300 a pop here for a PSA 10. But I'm right there with you. I don't remember this card being a thing, but clearly it was low pop. And then it went to a partially blacked out version where it's just kind of a black box on there. And that was a lower version, but still very popular, very highly produced. There's over 1,100 cards of that graded 207 are 10s. So again, another low pop. And then the total blackout of the whole scoreboard, that's been graded 4,700 times with about 1,500 10s. And those sell for about, $50 for a PSA 10. So, and those are the ones, again, you get in the factory sets. When we were collecting back before the boom, you and I bought a lot of these cards. Like you said, I was buying a lot of these factory sets for anywhere between $5 and $10. And you were getting the black box Bill Ripken, and you were getting the fully blocked out Randy Johnson. So there wasn't a whole lot to get out of those sets. And then in my research, I found out that there was kind of a red tint version of this. And that must have been really, really rare, because there's only been 3 of this card graded by PSA. And it's really hard to see. And there's, again, some people on eBay are selling this version, saying it's the red tint version. Mm-hmm. But I can't, to the naked eye, I can't tell that it is. But then I was looking, and there was a BGS 9 or 8 or 9 that sold that had the red tint, and it had the designation on the slab. So, and it wasn't selling for much. It was like $225, but the fact that it's only been graded 3 times by PSA was rather interesting, which tells me that might be a card to investigate a little bit more, because I think there's the 3 cards that have been graded have all been 8s. So I don't know how many of those cards are out there. I know nothing about it. Was in my research for this show, that was the first I had heard about this red tint one. And I, again, went and found one that had sold BGS, but other than that, never heard of it. But again, buyer beware, because there's going to be, if you search red tint Randy Johnson 89 Fleer, you're going to see a lot of them pop up on eBay. And I don't think those are red tint, but just, again, uniqueness of this set. We've spent most of our time talking about 2 cards. Right. And we can pretty much end the conversation now, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, it's, you have a Griffey card there, but these 2 cards make this set iconic, because it was so odd, and it continues to be odd. I mean, there's stories behind both of these cards that just, you kind of shake your head and go, man, this is just weird.
Yeah, I think that red tint thing, it doesn't really look much different than the kind of the partial one. And I think probably the reason why that sells for what it sells for, I think most people don't even know. So you need to have rarity and demand for prices to go up. And if it's rare but not in demand because no one knows about it, then it's not going to sell for a lot of money. Right. But I just wonder if that's something that, when you go to submit cards to PSA, you tell them what you think that card is. And I would be interested to know how many people have said that this is the red tint card. And
it's a great point.
The research and ID, they go, no, this isn't the red tint card. Or maybe somebody put in one that said it was partially blocked, and they go, no, this is red tint, or this is not partially black. This is the full Marlboro. I mean, it's one of those things where, what you think it is and what it is could be 2 different things. And I've also seen, and you've seen as well, where PSA sometimes just misses things. So you may be able to put in there that it's partially blocked, but it's not.
Yeah.
So,
and it's hard. It's hard for the naked eye to see these, even in person when you're holding the card, but especially off a computer screen on eBay, it's even more challenging. I was trying to find pictures that really show this, and it was difficult. So yeah, unless you're touching and feeling this card, or it's been graded by PSA, there's a lot of buyer beware out with this one.
Yeah. Here we got another comment from YouTube as well. Carlisle Rude says, joining late, my favorite error card of this era is 1989 Upper Deck Reverse of Dale Murphy. And that is a really cool one. And again, one that people think about. And I don't think Upper Deck needed extra buzz. The one that I think about, though, when I think of reverse negative, was the 1990 Donruss Juan Gonzalez card. But there were a ton of cards, I believe, in that 1990 Donruss card that were reverse negative. But yeah, that 89 Upper Deck Dale Murphy is a cool one. And Dale Murphy is still, guy not in the Hall of Fame, but he's got to be one of the most popular and best players to not make the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, again, that it just shows the people remember those air cards from that era.
Right.
Like that was what was, again, those were the short prints of the time. And
Exactly.
now we hear all these variations and, these, true short prints, but man, air cards were the things that people were chasing. And yeah, that Dale Murphy's right there with this, with these cards as well. But anything else with Mr. Randy Johnson or Billy Ripken, or should we move on to the lesser valued cards in the set, which again includes a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie? Oh, by the way,
right. Let's close the book on the errors.
Icon,
Let's talk rookies and kind of top cards. And this is the Griffey card. Of course, there was no tops or score Griffey in 1989. So it was either this one or the score and the tops came out in the update, but not in packs. Right. But if you wanted to pull a Griffey rookie out of a pack in 1989, you needed Fleer or Upper Deck. Yeah,
and this was still a thrill. I mean, we look at this card now. It is one of probably the most owned and graded cards. It is a top 10. We mentioned that on last episode of this podcast. It is one of the top 10 most graded cards. It's been graded 52,000 times. And, when you look at how many cards have been graded in this set, 92,000 cards have been graded in this set. So well over 50% of the cards in population is in this one card. And, there's almost 5,000 tens, and they sell for about $150. But again, when you were pulling cards in 89, Ken Griffey was the card that you were trying to get. And even pulling cards today out of this set, Griffey is the card that you pull, probably third. But, still one of those cards that I think everybody had and still probably has in their collection today.
Yeah, a guy who watches the show every week, Nolan Void, says, right, when Ken Griffey Jr. is the weakest link, you're doing good.
Right. And it was. I mean, that was it. But you were also competing, like you said, against that Upper Deck card, which everybody had. Right? I mean, we've talked about that card.
Yeah, that'll be a show sometime. We got to get into that. But so you got this card, and this card costs you 50 cents for a pack. That card costs you $1 for a pack. So this is the one that kind of was easier to get. And then
beyond that, that's really it. I mean, we just talked about the three cards that really have any value, and they really don't have much value. Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, but cool looking cards, man. That Bo Jackson card is so cool.
And anytime you get Bo, it's a good thing. Smoltz, it was his rookie as well. So you've got another Hall of Fame pitcher there, rookie card of there. Gary Sheffield, guy was in the league forever. One of the best hitters probably of that era. And Craig Biggio was in the 88 update set, but this was his first card you could pull out of a pack in the Fleer set. And then I love these cards.
Yeah.
So these are the all-star cards, and it's almost kind of reminds you a little bit of the 83 top set where you had the little inset with the headshot and then the action shot.
Yeah.
But, that was kind of one of my favorite sets, and these are cards that you can randomly insert in the packs.
And the Darryl Strawberry there too, just in the iconic blue, orange, and pinstripe of the Mets. I mean, that's a great looking card too, and those all-star team. But when you look at true value of this set, as much as demand, like we've talked about, that this set is in, and these cards will sell. I mean, these boxes will. I think it's just the thrill of being able to pull those cards, and I think that's what makes this set an icon. If you're buying the factory set, you're probably bored. But if you're buying wax boxes or wax cellos or racks or whatever the case may be, and they came in racks, but that's what it was about. It was about pulling the Ripken or pulling the Johnson. That sounded dirtier than F-Face. But when you start thinking about that, it is, that's what makes this fun. I mean, like we showed the Smoltz rookie card 2,400 times that's been graded. Sheffield 2,200, Biggio 2,100. So like there isn't a lot. one of the cards that's been most graded in that set was like a Mark McGuire third year card. Like there was nothing really special about this set other than those air cards. And but those two cards out of the 660 made this set, truly unique and truly special.
Hey, we gotta show one more thing here. Viewer Carlisle Rude says, I always pay attention to the gray square in the lower right portion of every 1989 Fleer card. If it looks like a square, it's centered properly. If it's a rectangle, it's probably not. So I think
no kidding.
Right there in that lower right corner. So pretty cool. I mean, I love it when we get folks come on here and throw out a few tips. So
I think I'm gonna start looking like that. Yeah, it's there you go. And that was one of the things too that it's still a challenge to get that card perfectly centered, or any of that set perfectly centered. There was a lot of off center cuts on that car, on that set and that card. So that was one of the things. Even if you do get a Ripken or a Randy Johnson with the Marlboro sign, like it could be off center. It could be, there could be a ding. Those cards did hold up pretty well. The stock, I do remember that. Pulling cards now, the corners were pretty sharp, but it was it was the centering and a little bit of etching. The corners of the edges were a little. Sometimes there was some bleeding, especially on the back. We don't have any video or pictures of the back, but that yellow and gray kind of sometimes created some sort of printing marks, and there was fading. I know there was this was very common to see double printing on these cards too, so it almost looked like the cards were blurry. So the consistency, you could look, and I remember looking back when we got back in the hobby, Chris, you and I think I had like 15 of those Griffey Fleer, and you look at them, the color of his face was different shades of brown. And the blues and the yellows were all different. So I'm like, I remember taking a picture of like, which one's a 10 color, which one's, fortunately enough, it was $8.88 to get them graded. So
back then, right.
You just send them all. Right. So, but I just remember the printing was very, it varied from card to card, inconsistent. And, you had, I remember you had weird marks on the back. So, I think Fleer was, had some issues with some of their printing on that. And, you wondered, is it the cards? Is it the printing? Who knows? But, again, awesome set, awesome cards. But really the uniqueness of this was the wax and pulling the cards that, either, again, were swearing at you or selling you smokes. So lung darts or swear words, you pick your poison. I like the comment was, Griffey's your third, that's your afterthought.
You talked about pulling that as a card or as a kid and getting offered $200 for that card. But listen, man, if you owned that card, you could walk around school and you were the man. I mean, it was better than owning a nudie magazine. Like, you could show people this card and have the F word on it. So it was the thing to have as a 13-year-old boy, to be able to show that to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to shows as a kid, and like it was like a big deal. If
it was
one of those, like you wanted to buy it. So
very,
very cool thing. I think we've covered everything that we can for 89 Fleer. I think, like you said, there's really 3 things to cover, and then at that point, we're done.
Yeah. So. Well, that was a fun one. I enjoyed that because, I know I still will find or still look for wax boxes. And if I find them at a reasonable price, I'm usually buying them. So, still ripping.
That's kind of the crazy thing. Everybody talks, well, it's junk wax. Those boxes are selling for $50 right now. When they came out in 1989, they sold for $18. Right. So if you bought those and stashed them in a cupboard somewhere, you actually got a pretty decent return on it right now. Not quite what the Dow Jones would have been, but index funds or anything like that. But still, you're making money.
All right. Well, this has been a fun podcast where we've gotten a chance to swear a little bit and, again, talk about cigarettes and all that good stuff just because of a couple of errors on a sports card. So I'm going to end you here with Chris. The PSA report from February was kind of surprising to me. Maybe it isn't to others because I'm not in this game, but the most cards graded and shipped by category in February. Do you know, Chris, what number one, the one category is, the number one slot?
I don't know, but I'm going to guess, and I think I'm right, and it's Pokemon.
It is. That surprised me. I want to know number two. Okay, let's go through. Number two is basketball. So basketball is pretty close to Pokemon, and then it goes baseball, football, soccer. There's a big drop off between football and soccer. So again, hockey cards, zero interest from a wider audience. I think hockey, we've talked about this before, but Pokemon is the most graded and submitted cards. I'm trying to wrap my head around it because I don't see that world. I don't live the Pokemon world. Where are all those cards coming from? Are people that big into Pokemon that I'm just completely oblivious to it? I just don't see it because I'm not interested in it.
I think they are. And I mean, when you go into Target and walk around and you see those Pokemon shelves are empty, and we like sports, we're into sports, but we have a favorite sport. And, these type of things. Now, you and I collect basically every sport, and most collectors, I would say, probably do. But if you're outside of the sporting world, if that's your thing, if you like trading cards, and that's probably it. The other thing I'll say about Pokemon, if you're interested in collecting Pokemon as a investment, Pokemon doesn't sexually assault people. Pokemon doesn't end up in jail. Pokemon
doesn't throw for 45 touchdowns either, though. Pokemon's not. There's no speculation in Pokemon. Charizard is not going to throw 43 touchdowns this year and win a Super Bowl. So I'm just wondering, what is the that's kind of what I'm talking about. So it's a little bit of that. How do you judge if there's so many Pokemon cards being graded? Like the population reports have to be so high that these cards can't be worth that much. But again, I understand what you're saying. They can't fluctuate because of the things that happen to them because they're fictional characters. Can't really inflate or deflate a price. And so I just find that number interesting, that they're number one by a significant margin.
It's manufactured scarcity, and there's cards in those sets that they don't make as much of. Okay, I think the judging game is actually probably really fun. I actually have a friend who buys rolls of uncirculated pennies, and he's got the jeweler's loop, and he does the judging, and he literally picks out pennies and sends them in to get graded. Okay. And that's his game. And he's like, man, if you get a 99, I don't know. He's just saying, if you get the right penny graded, you can make big bucks. And that's kind of his thing. And I would say the Pokemon deal is probably similar to that. And obviously there's people who like it just because they like the characters and they like the artwork and stuff that's in it. But I think they know, okay, this is a rare Pokemon. This card is centered. They're doing the same thing. They're judging the card the same way we would judge a sports card. They're looking, obviously, I think every Pokemon card I've ever seen has rounded corners, but there's got to be probably a way that card is cut that would make it either really good or not good. Again, I don't look at a lot of Pokemon cards, but I think it's just a collector kind of thing. People used to, and they still do, I think, collect Garbage Pail Kids and similar to that.
Sure, I get it. Just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's not relevant and a thing. It surprised me, the numbers, when you look at, when we talk about the hobby, we often refer to that as the sports card hobby. And to see PSA getting flooded with Pokemon cards, it just made me think, okay, maybe this is bigger than I ever even imagined, this Pokemon craze. And I thought it might be tailing on to the sports card world. Let's just put it that way. I was thinking maybe people were not able to get their sports cards, so they kind of branched out to Pokemon.
Yeah.
I think it's just a completely different world.
Yeah, I think it is. But I think also when the sports card stuff really started going and people started going to PSA, I think the people that didn't want to collect sports cards but did collect Pokemon went, hey, maybe Pokemon is coming back too. And then they got back into it, and then they got going too, and it kind of pulled it up. Really cool, interesting little story. I guess maybe it's not interesting, but in the middle of this sports card craze that we had in the last year or two, I had a hard time finding supplies, as did other people. We actually have a store in my town that sells Magic and sells Pokemon cards, and I was buying all my supplies there because they had them. And it was funny. I would go in there and buy, 20 packs of penny sleeves, and they're like, what is this guy doing? What is he doing with all these penny sleeves? But it was the only place I could get them, so that was cool. Comment here from Nolan. He says, the new Pokemon doesn't do it for me, but the 1999 base set makes me feel like I'm 9 years old again.
That's awesome.
So that's another one of those deals where it just takes them back to this nostalgia thing, the same way that 1989 Fleer is to us.
Yeah, no, and that's great to know. And I want to branch out. I want to understand, again, why hobbyists are doing things that they're doing. We're looking at this. We just spent a whole segment talking about the changes to the NFL season and players moving new places. And for us, that creates a ripple effect in the hobby. And, for Pokemon, maybe there's a ripple effect that happens elsewhere. And I know, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, those guys, they're out there with their, first edition Charizard and all these things. So there's buzz created in, the celebrity world and that sort of thing. And, you're starting to see more celebrities get into collecting, whether it's Pokemon, whether it's sports cards. I just saw, Drake bought just a ton of with the NBA, what's the one with the briefcase, the stuff I can't afford. But, he was looking for a 101 NBA logo card, the logo man cards, and, just dumped a bunch of money looking for that. And so, anytime that a celebrity starts talking about something, there's going to be a little bit of interest. And so that's just the one thing I found interesting. And I think one of the other things, too, that I find interesting, and we'll end it on this, is, we talked about this too a while back. It's like basketball is so available. You can buy basketball wax at pretty much any time at Target, on Target.com. And thinking back to the past couple of years, Zion, Ja, Anthony Edwards, LaMelo, like, you had guys, you couldn't buy this stuff. And you get a weak rookie class, and basketball is available. I picked up this Donruss from Target.com. Not sure what I'm going to do yet with it, but I just find that interesting. I've mentioned it before on here, but Zion got people really interested back into the hobby. I saw guys, I think I mentioned this too. I saw guys buying boxes of Prism for like $500 a box. And I was just like, wait, someone's spending $500 on a box of Prism for 11 packs or 8 packs? And it blew my mind. But now you can buy them for $24.99.
You said 500. That's a blaster. And it's like, the hobby stuff is selling for 1,000 or more. But I think that there's a few different things going on there. You talked about, the rookie class isn't as good, but I also know that people just got destroyed on that Zion stuff because they went for it, and now it's worth a fraction of what it was worth before. And people got destroyed. They got taken to the cleaners. And I would be interested in knowing, and we're talking about, a few shows ago, we talked about 2022 tops and how there's so much more print run But how many collectors have kind of washed out over the last year or two because people came in, they saw big money, they pushed a lot of money in and didn't get the returns. And it's something you see in a lot of, I follow on Facebook and other social media, a lot of different shops, and there's a lot of talk, and it's really kind of come about in the last year or so about people buying these, a $500 hobby box and getting $50 worth of cards out of it. You can only do that so many times before you're just like, I'm out.
Yep.
I think
Absolutely.
That may be the case in basketball because it was such a rush to get into it, and a lot of people lost on basketball.
Absolutely. And you and I have talked about that a lot, not on this show, but just the gamble that is buying boxes. And when you're talking about $500, $600, $700 for, a pack or two, but, you're going to get some major hits, but maybe it only pays for a fraction of your box. Like, yeah, that's not sustainable. And I just, I think a lot of people, like you said, took baths, but yeah, if you looking for cheap rips, they're out there, and that's what I like about the hobby. But
right.
Well, that does it for episode number 7. We're going to be back with episode 8 coming up here, and hopefully the next week. We're going to be talking 1984. We're going to be talking football, and if you think we're talking tops or something else, we're talking USFL. A set probably back in 84 you didn't even know existed, but now we're going to look at some of the icons of that set, the value of some of that set, and the USFL is making its return, so it's a good opportunity to talk about its past as we look ahead to the future. And if USFL cards come out now, will you be buying them? Based on the 84 prices, you might be considering a USFL card collection. So we're bringing it all together.
They're definitely coming out.
Oh, you think so?
No doubt.
You think the card companies will look for another way to make money from us?
Yeah.
And you might be able to pull some of those guys that were hidden gems. That's what we're going to talk about next episode. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we're not talking about 1984 tops, cool stuff like John Elway and Dan Marino rookies. We're going to USFL.
Subset. The 84 tops, that set's like, that's too easy, right? That's too easy. We're going to take it in depth a little bit and go to the USFL set.
All right, guys.
Should be a good one.
Listening. Thanks for watching. Great crowd on YouTube tonight. Lots of
comments
and viewers. It was very cool. So
love that.
Talk to you guys next time.